In 2022, a SpaceX Falcon Heavy will take to the skies, carrying a NASA probe bound for a very special destination. Now, I suspect that by 2022, this is going to be a pretty common occurrence for the Falcon Heavy because of its heavy lift capacity, its reusability, and other factors that make it perfect for probes to explore the solar system. But this particular probe will have an incredible value to Elon Musk, to his plans to colonize Mars, and perhaps to the future of the human race. The 2.5-ton probe, along with a couple of extra satellites, will get a gravity assist from Mars and head for the asteroid belt, and a very unique object called 16 Psyche, which most people have never heard of, but it's perhaps one of the most unique objects in the solar system. 16 Psyche is thought to be the exposed core of a failed protoplanet, its outer crust ripped off by some sort of collision or series of collisions. And what makes that valuable is, first of all, it will teach us a lot about the core of our own planet, but in addition, it's an object comprised almost entirely out of metal, and many of those metals are incredibly valuable, including gold and, even more valuable, platinum. As a matter of fact, there's so much potential wealth in this one asteroid, easily exploited from Mars, by the way, that it could make whoever manages to exploit it the richest individual in human history and change the economy of the entire human species. In case you think I'm exaggerating, here's the estimated value of the minerals in this asteroid. Digest those numbers, and I'll be back in a moment. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of The Angry Astronaut. This evening I happen to be extremely agitated, not necessarily because of the subject matter, but because I've been struggling with this new audio and still not having any great success. So in a few days I think I'll have all of this worked out. I apologize. Hopefully the last video you have to put up with this. In any event, asteroid mining. People talk about it a lot, but they don't talk about it in conjunction with Mars colonization. And I'd like to know why. Because, believe it or not, it's actually easier for Martian prospectors, not necessarily faster, but more efficient, for Martian prospectors to exploit asteroids in the asteroid belt than for people on Earth to exploit the moon. Hard to believe, but true. And for this reason, I think that it's no mistake at all that Elon Musk and his Falcon Heavy is doing the lifting for this probe in 2022, heading to this asteroid, which its value pushes back the boundaries of known mathematics and could change everything for the economy of the human race. Let me explain. First, here's a crash course in asteroids themselves. They're essentially the leftovers from the formation of the solar system, and they come in three main categories. The most common is the C category, like 253 Matilda, which orbits in the asteroid belt and contains a great deal of water ice, making it invaluable to the future of human exploration. Next, there are S-class asteroids like 433 Eros, which is a near-Earth asteroid that orbits pretty close to our own planet. This particular asteroid has been a prime target for asteroid exploitation because of its proximity, and also because it's fairly rich in mineral and metal deposits. However, 16 Psyche is an M-class asteroid, the rarest of them all, and 10 times as dense when it comes to mineral and rare metal deposits. So 10 times as rich as 433 Eros, and also over 200 kilometers in diameter. It is a massive treasure trove unlike anything else in the solar system. And, again, believe it or not, easier to exploit for Mars than any near-Earth asteroid. But how is this possible? I mean, even though Mars's orbit comes a lot closer to 16 Psyche, as you can see here, it's still a very long ways away, much further than Mars is from Earth. Well, it's not a matter of distance. It's a matter of gravity. Mars' gravity well is 1/3 that of Earth. Therefore, a SpaceX Starship taking off from Mars would use less fuel than a Starship launching from Earth would require in order to reach the Moon. As a matter of fact, even using the BFR, the Starship would still require at least one orbital refueling in order to reach the Moon, whereas the Starship on its own, with no BFR, could launch from Mars and reach 16 Psyche without having to use the BFR at all, so long as there was a refueling station in the asteroid belt once the Starship arrived. So, how could all of this really work? Well, here's one concept. Send an unmanned Starship, its 100 tons worth of cargo, loaded with robotic equipment, designed to set up a fuel processing plant, not on 16 Psyche, but on a C-class asteroid rich in water and therefore rich in fuel. Once this was accomplished, you would send another Starship to 16 Psyche, once again with 100 tons worth of equipment. But this equipment would be designed for mining. And there are many robotic mining concepts that have been postulated by a variety of companies, like this one, designed to chop up the asteroid surface and regolith into a fine dust, and then to carry that dust back to a processing unit. Now, there are a variety of robots essentially designed to do the same thing. Most of them designed to hop about the landscape, gather the ore, and then to take that ore back to an automated processing unit. And this unit would filter out the most valuable mineral available on 16 Psyche, which would probably be platinum. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But of all the mining robots that I had a chance to research, this is my favorite, the NASA Razor. Designed for use on the Moon, but it could work on 16 Psyche simply because that particular asteroid has a little bit of gravity. It digs up the regolith and returns up to 20 kilograms worth of it at a time back for processing. Unlike most NASA robots, this one has two jobs: to dig and to return the regolith back for processing. It's very simple, very resilient. It can flip, turn over, experience all kinds of unexpected obstacles, and remain functioning. Quite a piece of machinery. Definitely my favorite. Once your platinum is processed, you load it onto a variety of different robot transport ships, such as this one designed by the Trans-Astra company, and you deliver your shipment to the Starship. 100 tons of very pure platinum ore. And once your extremely valuable cargo is aboard, the Starship makes its long journey back to Earth with a very, very valuable cargo. Now, the Starship could either re-enter the Earth's atmosphere to deliver this cargo, or, more probably, deliver it in orbit, because there would be a variety of different institutions that would be interested in going to orbit to get it, because we're talking $2.5 billion worth of platinum in one shipment. And this is simply because platinum is so incredibly rare and is used for so many different applications. Aside from jewelry, platinum is also used in dental work, electrical contacts, fine resistance wires, and a whole variety of medical and laboratory instruments. In fact, it is said that up to 1/5 of everything we produce has at least some platinum in it. Now, of course, you wouldn't want to flood the market with platinum and devalue it, but since your Martian prospectors would have control of the supply, they could also control the cost, much as OPEC does with oil. But here's the craziest idea of all. It's been postulated that the US government could mint platinum coins in order to eliminate the US deficit. Now, in order to do this, of course, they would need platinum, and it would take 100 years of platinum mining on Earth to accomplish this. But SpaceX, or the Martian prospectors, could solve this problem in short order. Now, there are all kinds of problems with this idea, and some have even said that it's unconstitutional, but can you imagine how much somebody would pay to wipe out the US debt? Now, of course, there's lots of problems with this idea, but a lot of the traditional ones, such as the expense of sending things all the way to the asteroid belt, well, that's eliminated simply because the Starship can operate for as little as $2 million per flight and can make use of fuel generated in the asteroid belt itself. But what bothers me is since this plan relies so heavily on robotic miners, and since robots have a tendency to break down or encounter problems when operating on asteroids, as we found every time we've tried, there would be a strong temptation to send human miners along with. And that would involve long exposure in microgravity, long periods of exposure to radiation, and many other hazards. But would we be willing to take that chance, given how much profit would be involved in the risk? Now, obviously, there's a lot of complications involved here. This is going to be a monumental undertaking. But with the Starship's heavy lift capability and its reusability, and its incredibly low cost per kilogram once it's up and running, I think it would be foolhardy indeed to not take advantage of the massive amount of wealth in the asteroid belt and other places throughout the solar system. And I'm pretty certain that Elon Musk has that in mind. But still, it is going to be difficult. It is going to involve a lot of engineering and a lot of expertise, and perhaps even loss of life, depending on how we go about this. But nevertheless, the reward is tremendous. It isn't just about a second home for the human race. It isn't just about exploration. It's also about a hell of a lot of money. And that could change everything when it comes to colonizing the red planet. But that's a long ways in the future. So until we're at that point, always remember, stay angry about space.